director of Tomorrow's Warriors, a nonprofit here in the Puget Sound region, Kaitlyn Johnson. And we're going to talk to you a little bit today about our Unified Sports Clinic with Jeremy Casebeer coming up here at Uprising Volleyball on May 26th. Kaitlyn, thanks for coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how this idea for tell me first what Unified Sport is actually.
So Unified Sport, it's an idea that was first pioneered by one of the leading, probably the leading organization for sport for people with intellectual disabilities, Special Olympics. They now have programs, of course, all over the world, but they basically saw a need in the sports community for people with and without disabilities to work side by side, and they saw the value in an experience like that. And they just came up with the idea to have, people with and without disabilities working, playing together, learning about each other. And they just took that idea and ran with it, and now it's become this kind of worldwide phenomenon in schools, in their Special Olympics sports programs that are across the world. And that's, now it is what it is. It's all over the place. So
tell me a little bit about for those who don't know, your connection to beach volleyball, and what seeded this idea for you? Where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so I played select volleyball for 4 years in and around Snohomish County, and then I got involved with the beach scene my second year in, and I just loved beach, and unfortunately I had to drop out a little bit because of an injury, but I've always kind of maintained my connections within the community, just because there are some really amazing people out here. And then, I started, about the same time that I started taking up beach volleyball, I became involved working in special education classes in my school, just through a random chain of events. And they, I started developing personal relationships in those classes, and I started to realize that in our community there's relatively few opportunities for unified sport and for, outside of Special Olympics, for people with and without disabilities to work side by side, whether that be in school, in sports, wherever. And, recently I was hanging out at my dining room table. It was one of the snow days, and I'm, wishing I could be outside, wishing I could be back on the beach court. And I was, just kind of thinking, and I was bouncing around ideas. I'm like, all right, I love working to further disability rights, and I love beach volleyball. And all of a sudden the two ideas came together, and I'm like, this is something that has never really existed, just beach volleyball in general for people with intellectual disabilities. So and especially not in our area, so I just kind of wanted to create that. And here we are.
And so in creating that, you also created your own not-for-profit called Tomorrow's Warriors. Really briefly, tell us just a little bit about the mission there.
Yeah, so basically, as I talked about before, I got involved working in special education classes in my schools, which is definitely one of the most life-changing experiences I've ever had. And in working with those, getting to know a lot of the people in those classes very personally, I realized that, they make it look easy, the stuff that they have to go through on a daily basis, just because of misconception and stigma that exists around disability, especially intellectual disability. And I just decided that I was done hearing about those kinds of stories, and I wanted to change the way society sees disability. So that's how we came to be.
That's pretty aggressive. And Kaitlyn, just for those who don't know, you present yourself very well, but how old are you?
I'm 15 and a half.
That's very impressive, Kaitlyn.
Thank you.
So our Unified Sport Clinic with Jeremy Casebeer, you brought this idea to me. It was a pretty natural fit. We asked Jeremy if he was comfortable, found out his dad used to be involved in Special Olympics, teaching when he was young. So a really cool fit there. What type of experience can someone talk us through what an athlete with a disability will experience at a clinic like this, and what an athlete without a disability will experience at a clinic like this?
Yeah, so an athlete without a disability, I feel like there is a lot to be learned for both groups of people coming into this. There's so much to be benefited, to have in benefit from an event like this, mainly because they're not very prevalent in especially our area. So for an athlete with a disability, there's some chance for some really quality coaching that's not really super prominent. There's, a chance to work with a great coaches, great people to get involved in the really vibrant beach volleyball community we have here in the Puget Sound. and just to, have some fun, get to work with people who they might not otherwise have the chance to meet. And the same goes for athletes without disabilities, who can come in and get one of those experiences that they might not otherwise be able to have, and working with people who, might function differently from themselves, but really in the end aren't nearly as different as, a lot of people would like to believe.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Sounds really unique. Before we move on, registration is up right now. It's at uprisingvolleyball.com. There are a really small number of spaces available. Only 10 for athletes without disabilities and 10 for athletes with disabilities. Again, the date is May 26th. It's noon to 2 p.m. There's a lot going on around this. And you've brought together a big group of people and companies to help make this happen. Talk to us about some of the contributions to this from our beach volleyball community here.
Yeah, we had some major contributions, like right out of the gate. We were able to talk to AVP first about this, and they made a massive contribution, which I'm very, very grateful for. It was a crazy idea to begin with, and for them to commit so early was amazing. We also had some help from 512, a local, very eco-friendly brand that operates in Tacoma. They're great. Their gear is really taken off in the Puget Sound beach volleyball community. They have donated a ton of supplies, a lot of stuff for our raffle, which is online, by the way. We have some awesome 512 gear that you can enter to win. They have donated shirts for all of our athletes involved in the clinic. So if you sign up for the clinic, you will get a unique, one-of-a-kind Tomorrow's Warriors Uprising Volleyball 512 t-shirt. We also had some contributions coming in from some of my personal connections, in particular North Sound Physical Therapy in Snohomish. They made a great contribution. And then the rest is going to stem from our raffle. So get out there and get those raffle tickets. There's some great prizes.
Excellent, and we should shout out too to Tammy at Ink It Your Way.
Yes,
She's your neighbor,
yes.
and also our apparel supplier here at Uprising Volleyball. She's jumped in and helped out. We're really looking forward to having this happen, have it go down. Kaitlyn, any last ideas or any last things that you would say that would encourage someone to come and experience a unified sport clinic, or specifically this unified sport clinic with Jeremy Casebeer here at Uprising Volleyball?
I would just say to anybody out there watching that if it's the first of its kind for our area. I sound like a broken record because I feel like I've kept saying this, but I just want to drive home that this has never happened before, really, in our area. So it's something that's really unique, and I feel it could really take off. So if you want to be a part of what I hope to be a legacy of unified beach volleyball, get out here.
We're looking forward to showcasing the game to a population that might not otherwise get to see it. Speaking of things that are really unique and hopefully will really take off, Kaitlyn Johnson, guys from Tomorrow's Warriors, thank you, Kaitlyn, for putting this together, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for letting a crazy 15-year-old work her idea through.
Thanks, guys. So we'll see you on the 26th at the Unified Sport Clinic with Jeremy Casebeer.